as of this moment, that gives you an idea of how bad things have gotten in the Netherrealm community and NRS's maintenance, if that's what you want to call it, or their care, just the utter lack of diligence and the lack of care behind the maintenance. You can tell they're mailing everything in, and the community is finally starting to treat the game accordingly. All right, check. Like, check one. All right, cool. Sounds like we're good to go. Okay, so how's everybody doing? Hope everybody's rocking and rolling with a good Saturday. I'm very fortunate to have a 3-day weekend up ahead with, of course, the recognition of the great one, Martin Luther King Observance Day on his birthday. And yeah, it'll definitely be a very much needed day for some reverence, and for, of course, to just go ahead and stay away from the grind for whatever time we've got. So hope everybody's doing okay. Hope everybody's rocking and rolling all right with this weekend. See some old faces in the chat. How's it going, everybody? First off, welcome to the StarDock Streamcast. It's your boy Star Charger. And of course, on the latest episode of the StarDock Streamcast, you heard it a couple of nights ago when I was live, with regards to the current state and status of Mortal Kombat 1 as we know it. And I gave essentially my perspective on just exactly where it is, how things got here, just how things have gone awry with NRS, just what they failed to do and what they've done as far as development is concerned, alongside, of course, just exactly, what the landscape of everything is shaping up to be, with the game just being finally called out, and also the developers being called out as badly as they are because of how badly things have gone. And if things weren't bad before, if what I might have been saying to some folks would have been considered conjecture, or for that matter, my opinion as a hater, or whatever the case may have been beforehand, well, in that discernment in the last episode of just exactly how I saw things going down with Mortal Kombat 1, and how the developers have essentially just failed the community from a development standpoint, a communication standpoint, and just full stop, how they've just failed. And as harsh as I was, recent developments have just gone and proven me right in ways that I really would never have wanted them to prove me right. And it was pretty obvious as to the fact that they had been failing for the longest time as far as the development of Mortal Kombat 1, and that the whole release it now, we'll fix it down the road, and we'll still make our money in the meantime. It's now gotten to a point to where that's worn even on the last nerves of some of the biggest supporters of Mortal Kombat and of NRS. And as far as how the game's development is concerned, with the whole release it now, we'll fix it later, now I just simply got to ask, are you sure about that? Even I, in the sense that I've had a lot of years of watching the way that they've gone about releasing games that were not complete, because up to this point in their entire history, NRS is yet to release a complete game. And when I say a complete game, I'm talking about a game that has itself a very solid foundation on balance, a very solid foundation on content, a very solid foundation on quality assurance and quality control, and essentially a solid foundation that is worth building off of, to where the entire game as a whole stood a chance of really building the community upwards instead of going backwards. And in spite of the fact that, of course, in that time span of us knowing NRS, of course, they've developed Mortal Kombat X, which is my favorite NRS game to this day. And it's in a good place right now as far as the current rendition of the game is concerned. And it's been left off in the best potential shape of any game that Mortal Kombat, or as far as NRS, has ever developed in their lifetime. But it took a lot of pain to get there. I mean, Mortal Kombat X, throughout the first year and a half of that game's life, it was bad. It was rough in them streets. Unless you were playing a certain character or whatever the case may have been, it was rough in them streets. Full stop. But that final update was really what allowed that game to thrive, and really allows that game to continue to be played, compete, have competitions, and to thrive. Really, that's what allows that game to thrive to this very day. However, from that point onwards, it's just been the complete and total opposite in terms of not only how NRS engages with the community, and also how they've taken those engagements as far as how they've related to gameplay and how they've related to fixing up the quality of life. They've not only gone backwards with it, it's now gotten to the point to where stuff like this is happening. All right, let me show you. So, as you can see, remember when we were talking in the last episode about how the big desync issue was really plaguing the game's online quality of life, and now a lot of other issues were really plaguing how the game was able to function? Well, yesterday morning, they said that the latest MK1 patch addressing the desync issues is now live on Xbox and PS5. Update your game now to make sure that you're combat ready. Well, there's my reply to it. But the reason why I replied to their tweet like that, you might ask. Well, yeah, after all the folks that still play that game downloaded and applied the patch, the desyncs were still going. I installed the patch and desynced my first game on. We need to be compensated at this point. Give me some dragon crystals. Oh, you poor misguided fools. You think NRS is gonna give you anything? They made their money, man. They suckered everybody. They made their money. They made their money. They're mailing it in, baby. They were tasked with fixing the desync issues, upon which they revealed that they were aware of for over a month and a half. But the update that was supposed to complete the job, well, you're seeing it with your own eyes. This game is terrible. Your game is dying. You failed and killed it because you don't care. I'm surprised this update didn't just change the item shop. You're gonna find out why I'm laughing as much as I am here in a minute, but yeah, the memes and everything kind of speak for themselves. Are you sure about that? Nicely done. Still getting, and this is over in Germany. This is Die Spielsitzung ist nicht mehr synchronisiert. Over in Europe, they're getting it. Yep. At this point, just release the whole combat pack. Screw it. We're getting GTA 6 before MK1 is finished. Oh my God. Release a patch for communication with players. Holy shit. Holy shnikes, man. Oh yeah, that patch is a few years overdue, don't you think? Man. Oh yeah, this is perfect. Oh, this is just perfect. This is wonderful. This is wonderful. Oh, this is great. Oh, this is great right here. This is amazing. This is amazing. Oh boy. Yup. And look at this. It would have been better if you had fixed MK11 instead of this game, which is still incomplete and has the same problems. Oh boy. Yeah, and then you got this poor cat over here from Latin America. He says he wants to feel the same emotions of MKX and MK11, but he doesn't feel anything. He doesn't feel anything for the game. I don't blame you. No te culpo, Franklin. Mm-hmm. Uh-huh. I'm playing the little match snippet.
I'm so glad NRS put out that patch that fixes desynchronization in Combat League. I'm so glad they did that, bro. Where's that thanks this is useless meme when you need it?
This guy said, about fucking time you do something useful. Oh, there you go. It's amazing. It's amazing. I knew it. I'm taking a break from the game until Chameleon releases. Oh, yeah. Good luck. Good luck. Hey, this is DJ on 6. All right, he's the head of Top 7 games and the La Liga circuits and whatnot that go on in Latin America from the DR and what have you. And yet, you know, online is the focal point of how he does things, man. And the fact that you've got all these desyncs happening that interfere with the way these guys are trying to run even online circuits. Competing in this game on and offline is just useless. I mean, it's especially useless online now that you see what we're seeing. This game is terrible. Your game is dying. You fail. Oh, yeah, we already saw that. I mean, yeah, it gets repetitive after a while. You see what we're going. You see how we're seeing it. But check this out. This is catch up. Deleted my post about the patch because there's already a link for the notes. Specifically to fix these desyncs, so hopefully it works now. Alright. Oh, yeah. Yeah. It's still there. It's still there. You just can't make this shit up, man. He's saying it's only been 2 months with it. Like, wow. Yeah, 2 months in counting, I'm afraid. 2 months in counting, I'm afraid, man. I mean, I just wish you could make this shit up, bro. You just can't make this shit up. Not even 24 hours after I complete the recording of the last episode of the Streamcast, where I talk about all these issues and I talk about how NRS has failed as a developer and there could be hope for them to fix the game if, of course, they get off their asses and actually dig deep and actually give a product that's worth the expense that's been put out from an initial investment standpoint from the community. Investing money for the premium rendition of the game, investing money from just any, aspect of the game in terms of acquiring it, playing it, and seeing what you got. Now you're seeing the level of care that the developers have for the product that they've wrought. There is no care. A whole patch that takes up data on your PS5 literally had to be downloaded just less than 20, or not less than 24 hours ago, but a day ago. A day ago. Only for the same issue that it was supposed to be fixing to persist. To persist to a degree that all of the community is now finally starting to call you out for this in full force. At this point, everything I said in the last episode has now been proven ironclad. I didn't even want it to be proven like this, or in any degree for that matter. You can't even enjoy this game if it's your cup of tea. If you like this game, more power to you, but imagine not even being able to play it online because of the fact that the updates that you're supposed to be getting that fix the experience from a quality of life standpoint aren't even doing what they are billed to be doing. The cause is lost. The plot is lost. Like you're saying with Punk and Capcom, with Street Fighter, and, to a big chunk, Punk also has a very bad habit of just getting absolutely salty when he loses, all right? And I've known that for years. But in the great scheme of things, yes, we do need a lot more of the folks within the community to wake up and realize just exactly what kind of a product they've been investing in over the last several titles from NRS. They need to realize they've not invested in a top tier product from NRS. When you get right to the scheme of it, NRS has been delivering minor league products as games since Mortal Kombat X's final update. People forget, Mortal Kombat X was the pinnacle, the absolute pinnacle of where our community was in terms of esports present, in terms of presence in the FGC, in terms of having respectable numbers at every single event, and respectable presence and respectable decorum at every single event. MKX was the last time regional rivalries and regional pride was on the line because of the fact that, and this time, it was the first time that the international communities really had a say on it because of how everything was structured with how things were going with us in esports, with the community, with the grassroots events. It did not matter. People traveled for that game because you got out of it what you put into it, especially when the final rendition of the game was wrought. And if we had continued to support that game after the final rendition was put in place in that final patch, Lord knows where the community would be. That game would be sitting in the same position that Guilty Gear Rev 2 is sitting at in Combo Breaker. You know, the same Combo Breaker that is in NRS's backyard, but is not. You look on that list of games that they have as main stage games right now, Mortal Kombat 1 is not even anywhere to be found in terms of entries at the present. And you got people still making excuses right now as to, oh, just give it a little while because it's on the pro comp. People are going to sign up later on. People are going to sign up later on in the process. Mother French toast. Tekken 8 isn't going to be out on shelves for almost another 2 weeks. It's already got 300 plus people signed up for the sucker. It's only trailing Street Fighter 6 in that regard, which has also eclipsed over 300 registrants as of this moment. Those are the only two games that have done that. Grand Blue Fantasy Versus Rising is sitting snugly very snugly in that top 8. And it's not in the bottom section either. Right now, the only game that has not eclipsed over triple digits in registrants for Combo Breaker is KOF 15. And something tells me that game is going to surpass 3 digits. Yeah, they're going to get past that point. But as of this moment, that gives you an idea of how bad things have gotten in the Netherrealm community and NRS's maintenance, if that's what you want to call it, or their care, just the utter lack of diligence and the lack of care behind the maintenance. You can tell they're mailing everything in, and the community is finally starting to treat the game accordingly. They're treating the experience accordingly. Yeah, but at the same time, I'm gonna go through some of the comments over here in the chat with you guys, because of course I spoke my whole entire spiel on all this in the last episode, and obviously it just got reinforced with this failure of a patch. I mean, you literally just saw it on Mortal Kombat's homepage for yourself. You just literally saw it for yourself. So yeah, I'm gonna go through some of these comments. I see a lot of you guys in here, talking your stuff, talking your shit. Yeah, NRS said no quiero más. Lady Cypher, yes. Lady Cypher, yes. Yes. Yes, 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 yes. Yes. They absolutely said no more. No más. No más. If no más was a patch, this was literally it, because there was nothing in that patch to begin with. Like, man, I've never seen a failure of an update like that in my life, and how fitting as far as fighting games was concerned, it came from NRS. And to give you guys an even further insight as to how badly they failed compared to their contemporaries overseas and their contemporaries everywhere else, Guilty Gear Strive and Guilty Gear Rev 2, like I said in the last episode, I've taken my hat off to the anime community for how they've supported Guilty Gear, past and present. Guilty Gear Rev 2, as far as Guilty Gear Exard is concerned, as far as the Exard series is concerned, Rev 2 came out 7 years ago? I think something like that, like 7 years ago. And yet, as far as Exard coming out, Exard came out in late 2014. Okay, we are in 2024. MKX came out in 2015, 6 months later. Okay? Here's the deal. MKX, if the community wanted to, MKX could absolutely have over triple digits in registrants as a main stage game at Combo Breaker. I have every confidence in that people would actually travel for that game, even if it's just a means of pride, because everybody knows how fun and how worth it that game is to compete in. Hell, I'll never forget it. Case in point, back when I won Combo Breaker a few years ago, there was only 20 minutes to sign up for that game, and it was only available for the people that were at Combo Breaker at that time for MK1, which at that time barely had triple digits of players that entered into that tournament. And in spite of that, 40 people signed up for that tournament in those 20 minutes. And you had dozens more after that were absolutely sad about the fact that they missed the window. And for me, I was lucky as hell to even have that window, because funny story about that. I actually took a nap when I got to my hotel room after dealing with a whole nother hotel issue. When the previous hotel was in absolutely horrific shape, and I changed hotels with the help of Booking.com. By the way, if you don't have Booking whenever you travel for events or whenever you travel in general, and I'm not getting paid to say this, but Booking.com, man, and the Booking app, what features, man? I don't know what my travel life would be without that app, man. It's such a great app. I salute Booking.com. I salute them. That's all I'm going to say. But back to my story. After I got to my new hotel, I took a nap. I was asleep for about 2 hours. I was still waiting for there to be news, because Too Easy was putting on the tournament as the host of that tournament with Combo Breaker. And unfortunately, Too Easy couldn't make that tournament because he got COVID the week before he was supposed to fly out to Chicago, which was so heartbreaking because if it wasn't for him, that MKX tournament would never have happened. And so after I wake up from this nap, Too Easy only has 20 minutes to post the sign up page on Smash GG in order for people to get involved in that tournament. And I scrambled as quickly as I could after I woke up from my nap at the time that I did. I mean, I wanted to go back to sleep for about another 10 minutes because when you have that nap, when you got the sleepies and if you got jet lag, I normally don't get triggered by jet lag, but after the drama with my previous hotel, I just had to go ahead and zonk out for a bit. But when I saw that there was an update that there was a sign up for MKX at Combo Breaker, that the tournament sign up was only happening up until the signups were done within a few minutes, I was 3 minutes away from not having the opportunity to compete in MKX at that tournament. And that's the only thing I went to Combo Breaker to compete in at all. I only went to Combo Breaker that year to compete in MKX, and I immediately knocked the cobwebs loose. I signed up on Smash GG. I was in the tournament, and in that process, 40 people signed up for that tournament and were able to compete in MKX for that event. And throughout the course of the event, unfortunately, you had guys like Rewind, Zombat, among a few others that were saying, damn, man, if we had just known that event was had its sign-up sheet open, we would have signed up. Everybody that played Mortal Kombat X that was in the MK11 tournament wanted to sign up because we all know MK11 was MK11. I mean, everybody knows what kind of a letdown that game was. And at that time, everybody was spending more time, as far as Mortal Kombat was concerned, playing MKX than they were on any other game. And then, of course, the rest is history. I was fortunate enough to win that tournament. And, yeah, that as far as my offline presence is concerned, that was the last tournament that I've been able to win offline back in 2022. So that's how that one came to be. But if the NRS community was given full carte blanche as far as having MKX as a main stage game, considering that we only had 15 minutes to sign up for that tournament 2 years ago, and we still had 40 people sign up within just 20 minutes, and I was fortunate enough to do so at that time, imagine if you gave people, from where we are here in January, if you gave people a 4-month time period to sign up for MKX if MKX was given a main stage opportunity again at Combo Breaker to compete. If they were to list MKX as a surprise game on the main stage right now, it would have over 100 people signed up for that game in minutes. It would not take long. There would be no excuses. And that game is almost 10 years old. Next year, it'll be 10 years old. At the end of April 15th, I think, here in this upcoming April, it will have celebrated its 9th birthday, and it will officially be in its 10th year of play. Long live MKX. But MK1 is less than 4 months old, and you don't even have 100 people sign up for that game in the event that's in its backyard as the pro competition's finale as far as open competition is concerned. That's frightening. And NRS has literally showcased why there's not even a point in supporting anymore. So whatever support they get from here on out, they deserve. But let me go back to what I was saying. Let me go back to, seeing the comments real quick. NRS didn't pay for the GGPO rollback license like they done for MKX, Injustice 2, and MK11. WB did not want to pay $100K a year to keep the license going. Oh boy, if that was the case, then they're back in the pre-MKX times. If that's any of you that are as old as I am that have been playing Mortal Kombat or NRS made games as long as I have been, if you remember what NRS Online was like before they put GGPO in MKX back in February of 2016, you know exactly what this means. This means that NRS netcode is reverted all the way back to being the worst netcode in the FGC. And that's a sad thing to see if that's really the case, Johnny. If that's really the case on why things have gone downhill again, then that basically means that the reason why they were able to get an Evo slot when they were left off of the preliminary Evo selection list in 2020 before COVID hit. Because remember, MK11 was not going to have a second Evo. It wasn't. After the first Evo and after all the signups and everything dropped, that was going to be it. That was going to be it for its presence at the evolution stage up until COVID hit and they brought Evo online. And then NRS's netcode in MK11 was the only thing that they considered to allow it onto the Evo lineup for that year, with the fact that it was going to be an online tournament. The netcode saved it. A few years before that, if you'd have told us that NRS netcode would save a game from being left off of the Evo roster, we'd have laughed at you. We'd have told you it would have deserved to be left off the Evo roster because NRS Online ain't the move. Every one of us that played MK9 when it was hot remembers the GameSpy days. Those were rough. Every one of us, like I said, that remembers I already mentioned the MKX days before they put GGPO there. But then you go back to Injustice 2, or Injustice 1, Injustice Gods Among Us. If you remember anything about that netcode was even worse than MK9's, and that's saying something, boy. Oh, that netcode was rough. Oh yeah, we was on some stuff. We really were desperate to play our game online, braving that net play. I remember going back to it years later to prepare for Injustice 2's arrival. Oh my goodness. I sat there and thought to myself for a while, I really braved this game for as long as I did and played tens of thousands of games in it. Craziness. Craziness. But yeah, back over to y'all. They don't pay NRS to fix shit. What they pay them to make MK2 already. It wouldn't surprise me if that's the case. Because honestly, but then again, now the community is starting to see exactly what I've been preaching and what I've been ostracized for over the years. Because remember, years prior to all this, people didn't exactly like my opinions about NRS games and how I've been calling out the fact that a lot of the problems that they've been having in their games ever since Mortal Kombat 9 have persisted, have stayed along, and have gotten worse and have just gotten hidden to a certain extent, but they make themselves visible in other ways, if not just, point blank, obviously. And the fact that I also criticize the staff, the developers, because there's a silent rule amongst a lot of the top players, past and present, you don't criticize the devs, otherwise you get ostracized, you get excommunicated from the group, and they won't want to have anything to do with you, because if you do, then the whole cancel culture will come for you, come for them, whatever the case may be. I've basically been shadow banned from a lot of the NRS community because of the fact that I say what's on my mind, and a lot of people don't exactly like the fact that I call the devs out for what they've produced. The devs have made it a point to me and telling me in person that they don't exactly like the fact that I've criticized their work in the past. I mean, bro. And they know full well, me as a consumer of their product, ever since they became NRS and have continued on, because of course I've been a fan and of course I've been a player of Mortal Kombat for as long as I remember, since I was a kid. I love Mortal Kombat and I love the fact that it's kept going for as long as it has, but at the same time, I want the game to be eclipsing the likes of Street Fighter, Tekken, and all that from a pure quality of product standpoint. And the quality of the product of Mortal Kombat sans MKX, and potentially speaking MK9, if MK9 had gotten the final patch it deserved, it'd be enjoying the same life as MKX right now. But unfortunately, NRS ain't the devs to trust with such a thing, man. They've proven it. They've proven it. You're saying, Day, how's it going, bro? You're saying they could do better, they just don't want to. Truth. Facts. Facts. I've been saying that for years. I mean, if they had been, and here's the thing, I've said it also in the last episode, you can't hope to do good quality control, quality assurance, and testing on a game within just a couple of weeks, and then just a couple of betas, and just a couple of online stress tests, and think that the game's gonna have good QA, good data for you to build on in order to get it to a point where you can have a product that would just need minor tweaks, fixes, and just standard additional QA post-production to keep that game healthy. It doesn't work like that. Like I said, man, Tekken 7's foundation was built upon years and years and years and years of pre-release competitive footage, data, and stress. Not to mention, the thing I don't think I mentioned enough of when I was bringing up Tekken 7 and its example was the fact that Japan, of course, didn't let their arcade culture die. I know their arcade culture is starting to dwindle to a certain extent right now, but in general, their arcade culture has always been strong and always been a good feeding ground, a fertile feeding ground, especially where players go as a sanctuary to get on out and actually to play all different kinds of games in a social environment. They know, those devs over there in Japan, that using those arcades as lock tests, as the ability to get all kinds of player data from the local player base, which is always going to be top tier because it's Japan. We know how they roll. Using those arcades as lock tests, and possibly even using the LAN centers over here in the United States as lock tests, where they can get all the data they need pre-release to fine-tune the foundation of their game. That's the reason why Tekken had the hype, the absolutely hype Tekken 7 finals all these years later post-release, after they've just tweaked and added more to the game as time went on and had the perfect foundation for Tekken 8 to be releasing, like I said earlier, in 2 weeks. That's the reason why Tekken 7 has remained on top of the fighting game community for 7 years. And if you want to add in all the years that they had the pre-release tournaments and pre-release data going on before the console release, 10 years. 10 years Tekken 7 has managed to stay a focal point in the community, where for years Tekken, all it did in its competitive community was grow and grow and grow and grow and grow, because people saw the quality product that was Tekken 7. Because if you remember from the last episode, the last StarDock Streamcast, which if you haven't already seen it, please go to my YouTube channel. You can go ahead and check out the full episode there at YouTube, at the Star Charger 28 YouTube channel. All right, I already uploaded it over there. And I also gave timestamps so that you guys can see the full extent of every talking point if you guys want to get the juicy pieces where you guys want to hear it. So check that out. The timestamps are inside of the description of that last episode. And I'll do the same for this episode when I upload this one to YouTube as well. But that's the reason why Namco Bandai is top tier. They knew they had to get Tekken 7 right after their previous failure of a game in Tekken Tag Tournament 2, because Tekken's entire reputation and Tekken's entire existence was in indescribable and irrefutable jeopardy. They knew they couldn't screw up another Tekken game, and they delivered. NRS, on the other hand, you would think they're playing with house money the way that they just throw and slap these titles together and just release them. They took more time to develop Mortal Kombat 1 than any other game they've released up to this point. To the point to where they've even sacrificed the communication with the community, which there is no community engagement nowadays, in order to try and cook up what we thought was going to be a very special release once next generation consoles came around. In the interim, I mean, of course, they had the data, the stress test, the betas from last year. The year before that, they could have easily gone ahead and done the same thing that Namco Bandai did, Bring the builds of the game out to tournaments. Let us compete in it. Let us give you feedback. Let us give you every single ounce of information you need about each one of these characters, the games, the stages, everything. Let us give you all this feedback well in advance so that by the time the console release comes in a few years, you will have every single ounce of what you need in order to build a good foundation on the game, which you have done bespoke because you've gone away from what you did in MK11 after you realized that much that that game wasn't it. You should never have gone away from the foundation that you had in MKX because almost 10 years later, that game is still popping to the point to where, like I said, if the whole community wanted to go back to playing MKX and it was a game on the Combo Breaker main stage lineup or community lineup, whatever, it would easily be one of the best attended games where the whole community could rally behind it. But unfortunately, that's not the case. And the NRS community doesn't like the thought of supporting multiple games all at once, as we know from history. So you've got what you got. But I know arcade culture in America has been dead for quite a while, but there are other ways that they could have absolutely subverted this to the point to where the community could have still given them the feedback and the information necessary in pre-production, pre-console release of the game to where things could not possibly be this bad. They chose not to take advantage of that, and this is why we are where we are. And you know, of course, when you got the same guys doing QA, QC over there in the studio itself, I know they had Dragon, Big D, and a couple of other tournament heads on over there in pre-production of the game. I know they had some of the guys they had on over there when it came to some of the testing for a couple of weeks. And then, you know, of course, Dragon got released from NRS last year. But ultimately, you've got Dizzy, you got 16-bit, and I'd have to go back in my research to see if Paulo is still there. And Paulo, I always thought, was a big part of the problem in the sense of the design direction that those games have always gone from a balance and from essentially a gameplay standpoint. The only one where or the whole NRS, the whole team got lucky on, MKX, obviously. Everything else has just been bad. I mean, MK9 it gets a lot of leeway and it gets a lot of reprieves because it was the first effort that they made to get back into the competitive community. And if you don't think MK9 was their reintroduction back to the competitive community, look at how much they've shilled out for Evo ever since MK9's existence as the mainstream game representing NRS was standing tall. They've shilled out for Evo ever since. They were absolutely gunning for the competitive community. And even though we're a small part of their market, we're the part of their market that actually helps them fine-tune the game so that they have a presentable product. We were willing to have them take advantage of us for that so that we could have a good product worth supporting for years to come. They didn't take advantage of us as well enough as they should have. And the results have now reared their ugly heads. Going further into some of y'all's comments. On regular Texas versus Florida MK11. That was the only highlight MK11 ever had as a game. That was it. That was it. MKXL could still be around. Yep. Absolutely. You're not wrong. MK1 might get taken off the Evo games list. Ooh. And yo, Happy New Year, RZA. I see my buddy New Year. Yeah, I think you guys say in France, I think you guys say bon anniversaire. Yeah, bon anniversaire, mon ami. Please forgive me if I have a horrific accent, brother. I usually don't when I speak other languages. And French, I always wanted to learn French, but that language breaks so many rules. Not that English is any better, because we break a lot of rules too. But yo, Happy New Year, brother. Guilty Gear Strive and Exar 2 are great games. No cap. They're fun to play and have great netcodes. Oh, man, be careful talking to the Guilty Gear community about that, because obviously when Now, here's the thing about Guilty Gear, bro. Guilty Gear is a very big legacy game in the sense that a lot of the older heads that came from Accent Core, AC Plus R during the Double X days, they will tell you dead on that, you know, of course, that game was kusoge. It's horrible, you know, but at the same time, they'll all rally to play that shit. They will all rally to play it in a drop of a hat, and they won't care. But here's the problem. When Exard came along, they all said, oh, Exard's terrible, man. They slowed the game down. Why would you slow the game down? The same stuff that they were complaining about in Double X, they were complaining about even more in Exard, in the sense that a lot of the broken stuff that they had gotten used to, that they criticized ArcSys and Daisuke for, wasn't in Exard, or it was in Exard, but not to anywhere near as oppressive of an extent, even though Exard was pretty oppressive as an offensive-based game. And that's what I loved about it. You either attack people or you drown. That's it. But it had good defensive mechanics to help you out, aside from the crazy-ass blitz shield. I always did hate that junk. But as far as Double X was concerned, they called that game because it was kusoge. If you screwed up once, that was it. You didn't get to play the game anymore. They dumbed it down to a certain extent in Exard, and they hated that. But at the same time, it still had all the classic characters and their classic movesets and whatnot, to the point where they all played Exard and still supported it, and it turned out to be a fairly damn good game in the long run, because 10 years later, they still support that game. Now, Guilty Gear Strive comes out, and Strive has dumbed everything down to a super Weenie Hut Jr. level. If I'm offending anybody that loves Guilty Gear Strive, please forgive me. The game was just not my cup of tea. I tried it for a while. Lady Cypher, you know this. You know this, but unfortunately, it just wasn't my thing. But at the same time, I love the story mode. The story mode was good. But all the Exard heads are now the OGs in the Guilty Gear community, and they've basically started doing the same thing that the Double X guys started doing, and saying, oh, we hate this. Y'all dumbed the game down. You guys dumbed it down. You can't have any offense in this game. Every character is so different from what they used to be. Why would you do this, Daisuke? The soundtrack is horrible, even though I thought the soundtrack had some bangers. Even though a lot of folks don't like the lyrics and all that good stuff in some of the new Strive soundtrack, but I digress. I mean, they still support Guilty Gear Strive. And you look at Guilty Gear Strive right now from a competitive standpoint, I mean, and the Guilty Gear community from a competitive standpoint, you've got 2 games from Guilty Gear that are in the top 8 as far as entrants are concerned for Combo Breaker. Meanwhile, home-based NRS that's from Chicago, which is just down the road from where Combo Breaker is getting held, not a single mention in that top 8. Guilty Gear has to have at this point a combined at least 500 or 600 people competing in their games. ArcSys has to be proud about that. Meanwhile, NRS not even in there with double digits. Sad times, man. Sad times. Actually, Core Plus R is getting all the love it deserves. Yeah, you're not wrong, Lady Cypher. You're not wrong. Yeah, RZA, you're saying Guilty Gear Strive community is really the heat. Yep. Hey, man, they support their game. They support their game. They play their game. And on top of that, you got to give ArcSys a lot of credit for how they tend to their games, bro. You got to give them credit for that. First day in my MKX, the last real NRS game. First day of, yeah. Yeah, as far as Mortal Kombat is concerned, yes. 100% the last real NRS game, bro. It's only gone downhill from there. Because like I said earlier in the cast, MKX is the pinnacle, the absolute pinnacle of whatever they've released as far as Mortal Kombat is concerned from a competitive standpoint. They should go for action. I think NRS should stop doing fight. And RZA, you kind of beat me to what I was gonna say next, man, because I was gonna say it, and that's gonna tick a lot of people off. But here's the thing: they should stop doing Mortal Kombat. They should stop doing Injustice. Yeah, like you're saying, they should get away from fighting games altogether right now. And believe it or not, they've been speaking a lot about the grid. I'm seeing a lot of mentions about the grid. And for those of you that didn't exactly come away in arcade culture, the grid was the original Battle Royale game, bro, in arcades. Fun as hell to play. Absolute heat to play that game, bro. I mean, go watch some games. Go watch some YouTube videos on the grid developed by Midway. All right, Ed Boon of company, of course, were the developers of that game, and I gotta tell you, if they went to developing a whole new grid game, assuming they got the license for that game, and they got the creative license to go ahead and do it as they please, to renew the trademark and develop something that's based on that, assuming, of course, they actually had their stuff together in development when it comes from QA, I would snatch that up in a heartbeat, and I'd be going in on that. I'd be going in on the grid. 100%. 100%. I would really dig it if they really went ahead and made another grid game. Oh yeah. I'd be all over that like white on rice. No question. No question, man. They have shown they can make a AAA game, just change its category to action. I mean, didn't they develop one of the WWE games on the app, on an app on mobile years ago? I mean, they've proven they can do something like that. I mean, they've proven that they can get away from fighters altogether, and I don't know why they don't take that more seriously. I wouldn't blame them if they did, because at this point, it's just gotten to that critical point in time where they got to accept the reality that they're not advancing as far as their fighting game products are concerned. They're going backwards. The only thing that's advanced as far as their fighting game products are concerned is the graphics. That and the fact that the stores still work just fine. Notice how of all things that have had issues in Mortal Kombat 1, the stores are working just fine to siphon your money for those $10 voice skins, for the $10 voice packages, for the $10 skins, for the $10, fancy fatalities that they have for every season. I mean, they have no problem nickeling and diming you for all the kinds of craziness that by all rights, if they were going to nickel and dime you for that kind of money to that degree for cosmetics, the game should have been free to play. If the game was free to play, it wouldn't be anywhere near as close to highway robbery, because then at that point, you'd be paying for what you want with the characters you want, so that you're not obligated to get all this content for all this extra charge after already spending 112 bones on the game, assuming you got the premium edition of the game. But yeah, when the best thing about your game is that the feature that allows you to continue siphoning money off of your community after you've released a subpar product, being your e-commerce store, is the only thing that you got working at a high level, that's a problem. That's a problem, because imagine if that store wasn't working anywhere near as well as it should. How quickly do you think the quality of their fixes in the game would go up? How quality do you think that patch that didn't even fix the desync issues, how quality do you think that patch would be if it was the e-commerce store that was affected, where they couldn't take your money, there was a glitch that didn't allow them to get your money after you purchase a skin, and somehow all that stuff was going for free? How quickly do you think that junk would get patched up with all of WB's blessings to have every resource thrown into that update as possible? Oh yeah, you can't be meddling with Warner Brothers money. You can't be meddling with that money, son. That e-commerce store always has to be functioning at a high level. You feel me? MK11 is an excellent AAA game, but I mean, it's a horrific fighting game, and MK11, I'll just say it like this, man. And to those of you that love MK11, good for you. But yeah, let's just be honest, bro. MK11 ain't that guy. The sooner we were hoping that Mortal Kombat 1 would be good enough to where we would be able to forget about MK11 altogether. All right? And you know, it's MK11 to us. That's basically like what Tekken 4 is to the Tekken community. Oh, the Tekken community. Because remember, Tekken 4 came off the heels of the legendary Tekken 3. They were riding a high after Tekken 3, man. Tekken 4, unless you're talking about the story for Tekken 4 was good. But unless you're talking about the gameplay, the Tekken community will tell you dead on. The less said about Tekken 4, the better. Yeah, that was why Tekken 5 needed to be good. Tekken 6 was okay. And then Tekken Tag 2 sank a lot of goodwill. And then obviously, as I've already told you, the story about Tekken 7 and how they needed to get that right. And that's what springboards them into Tekken 8's prominence. But, yeah, it's sad, bro. Capcom and Namco are better devs. Johnny, you speak facts. That's facts right now. Do you think Capcom would have left an update as incomplete as the update that NRS dropped was? Do you think that they would have let that fly? Same thing with Katsuhiro Harada over at Tekken. Do you think under Harada's leadership, a patch that failed to update the net play after desyncs were riddling them of the competitive community's experience when that's a big focal point of the Tekken World Tour with the dojo events? Do you think that they would have let that fly? Absolutely not. ArcSys wouldn't have let that fly. And side games with the development of Grand Blue Fantasy Versus, which at this point, Grand Blue Fantasy Versus Rising, that game has overtaken Mortal Kombat. Everything those guys, like I said, I also mentioned it in the previous episode, everything they've done to take away from what happened in the previous title, which unfortunately had a lot of its offline presence hindered because it got released during the heat of COVID, and COVID really stumped that community's ability to grow offline during the course of the first game's prominence. But in spite of that, they realized that the online community was the only way to keep things going at a full clip, and that's what they did by way of GGPO. And they've taken all of what they've learned from that first game and applied it towards this second game. And the second game, from what I've heard, I've only heard nothing but good things about it. As far as Grand Blue Fantasy Versus Rising, bravo to Side Games, man. Bravo to that team. The fact that they've been able to showcase that they had the competence to do something in a game in a genre that they've never had anything to do with before. They had not made fighting games before. Side Games Plumbody, please fact check me on that in the comments. If they have already, please let me know before Grand Blue Fantasy Versus. Yeah, I'm always down to be corrected. Please fact check me. But to my knowledge, they never made a game that was prominent enough in the FGC to be considered a main stage it game until now. Grand Blue Fantasy Versus Rising, that community has supported that game, and they supported the previous game so well that you're seeing nothing but prominence out of the way that they are really rallying behind the product they've been given. If we had that level of care from a developmental, a holistic standpoint from Mortal Kombat with Mortal Kombat 1, this wouldn't even need to be said right now on this cast. I'd be talking about the competitive community. I'd be busy over in San Antonio over at the local that happened over there. I'd have much rather been competing in that if Mortal Kombat 1's product was something that was worth supporting and competing in. It's not. It's not. And it sucks because basically, you're seeing all these other developers, and then Lord knows what kind of a product that Project L is going to have, because they've been taking their time with that game. And I tell them, based off of what we've seen, of course, with Mortal Kombat's lazy ass development, I'm telling all of the guys over there at Riot Games, when it comes to Project L, take all the time you need. Take the time you need. Do not rush. Don't skip steps. Ask questions. Utilize the competitive community to give you feedback. Utilize the competitive players that you might have on your staff to give you good feedback. Do not skip steps developing that game. Take the time you need. Because look at Mortal Kombat. Mortal Kombat 1 will be a case study forever because of how they've done their development. I mean, it'll be a case study. Absolutely. Johnny Too Sweet, you say Harada fought hard for Tekken 7. Fought really hard for it. I doubt they developed MK1 for that long. I think they worked a total of 12 months on the game. It wouldn't surprise me. It wouldn't surprise me if a lot of the rumors that they were working on Injustice 3 before the switch to next-gen consoles came to be, and they didn't want Mortal Kombat to be waiting until 2027 for a release. It would not surprise me if that story really holds a lot of water, and then they switched things up and made this Mortal Kombat 1. Because I can definitely sense a lot of Injustice DNA in Mortal Kombat 1, and that's another reason why the game don't resonate with me. I mean, there's a lot of areas where I can sit there and say, not only that, but they've absolutely half-assed the whole tag dynamic, where apparently some data miners have gone into the game and seen that these guys were actually wanting to do a 3v3 kind of game. This was supposed to be a full-fledged tag game, and they stopped and just made all these extra characters cameos because they were too lazy. They was too lazy. I mean, the entire game's presentation as far as gameplay is concerned, because they stopped with these extra characters being cameos instead of us having a giant roster where you could use all these guys in a whole team, it's just lazy. You could have had cameo attacks, but the game could have been a full-fledged tag game where everybody could be used all at once, a la Mortal Kombat 9's tag mode. Because these guys have done tag mode before. They've done it before, and everybody loved that tag mode. It was busted as hell. Don't get me wrong. It was busted as French toast. Okay. I'll never forget the tournament I got third in NEC with Shankster, all because Johnny Cage Cabal was the most broken junk you could ever have on a team, but I'll get to that story another day. But overall, the approach they took to tag was the laziest thing I've ever seen in my entire life. At this point, why can't they just make a game that is legacy, not something that is uber new, like MKX Legacy or MK9 Legacy? Brother, that's what we wanted. That's what we wanted. MKX Legacy, that's what a lot of folks were asking for, because you see the lifetime that Mortal Kombat X is enjoying because of the quality of life that it's got with that final update, which breathed a whole new lease of life into that game. We can play that game forever. And even if they went to Mortal Kombat 9's formula, where everybody was fully kitted with their moves and whatnot, and, you know, of course, it was just all a matter of Mortal Kombat 9 movement, but made smoother, or whatever the case may be, I'd have been okay with that too, because I loved MK9. That's what everybody wanted. Nobody wanted them to create a whole new bespoke game again, which had the potential to be an absolute flop, which is exactly what MK1 is. An MKX Legacy game, they did not have the stones for that. Unfortunately, as far as creative direction on Mortal Kombat is concerned, they just do not have the attachments necessary to make the calls that could have turned the game into something worth playing for the long run, even the short run. RZA, in here in the chat, saying France at this point can't even get 16 players to fill out a local. The international community is dying. And that's what's so sad to see, man. Back in Mortal Kombat X, the international scenes were an absolute strength of our community. ESL brought so many nations together where we could see that, holy crap, France has a damn good scene thanks to RZA and company, Happy Pal. Ireland's got their scene going in full force thanks to guys like Irish Mantis, Used for Glue at the time, among others. Obviously, we know about Great Britain. Italy had themselves a scene. You had Belgium, Holland. You had Juppe from Finland coming over here and mixing everybody's you-know-what with that Kano. You had Russia, which was absolutely demolishing people at the time. You had Germany. You had so many nations showing out from Europe. You got the guys over in Africa that show out. From Ghana, Nigeria, and whatnot. You got Angola, Eddie Wong, guys that just show out from over there. You got Southeast Asia, and then you got Japan. All the guys over there in Japan that competed in MKX. I ought to know I had to go up against one of their best players at EVO a few years ago in order to get up out of the pool, and I was fortunate enough to win that, man. His Ermac was no joke. And then you had the likes of the Philippines. You got Thailand with players. You got so many players abroad. You got Australia with players. You got all of Latin America with players. Obviously, the Dominican Republic, Puerto Rico. You have all the guys that are peppered all the way around South America, whether it be Brazil, Colombia, Venezuela. Chile, obviously. It doesn't matter. Canada, obviously. The MKX community was absolutely supported by its foreign presence. That's gone away now. And obviously, I feel like I'm doing a disservice to my boys in the Middle East. Middle East, yes, obviously the Middle East. Tekken Master, Shark Teeth, Hamo, among so many others. And then you've got Connie Monty from friggin' Turkey doing his thing over in Germany, and then, of course, doing his thing over at UFA, which was great to see. You had two guys from the Middle East in the grand finals of UFA recently, over here for MK1, which Connie Monty, holy crap, I did not know monsters like that existed over in Turkey for Mortal Kombat. I did not know that. So hats off to Connie Monty. But you're just seeing it right now. This game is, with the way that NRS has put this very rushed product out on shelves, the game is dying. The community is dying. Nick Too Slick says MK1 is a masterpiece like a Picasso. Bro, don't insult Pablo Picasso like that. That's an insult to Pablo Picasso. I wish NRS would remake a game like how Call of Duty does. An MKX remake would be so fire. If they remade MKX with the same, tweaking balance a little bit, but just upgrading the visuals a little bit, give it an upgraded soundtrack, but then again, what the hell does NRS know about good soundtrack, huh? That's not been helped too much in, outside of a couple of bangers in MK1, which were produced by the old Killer Instinct sound team, I found out. Outside of that, the rest of that soundtrack ain't worth the time of day. Let's be honest, bro. If they re-released MKX and actually gave it the glow up it deserves, and then if they did the same thing to MK9 for that matter, those two games would put MK1 in a grave forever. MK1 would never see the light of day again, and WB can't have that with regards to their brand new hotness. They can't afford to bury a new game like that. Hell, SNK, much to their credit, they updated KOF 13. KOF 13, which was released back when I was in college back in 2011. On my iPhone, I still got a lot of tracks from that soundtrack to this day. In fact, one of them is my ringtone, Goodbye Asaka. And a lot of that's thanks to that grand finals that Renault won against Hee San Woo back in Evo 2013. If you ain't seen that set, go check that out, man. That set was blood fire. I'm here to tell you right now, top of the line KOF play, there ain't too much like that. You got so many nations, so much interest in, especially KOF 13. KOF 13, that's the greatest KOF ever made. I will not hear otherwise. That's always going to remain a game that I sit there and think, damn, man, I wish I was top tier in that game. Outside of Tekken, KOF 13 has always been that game where I'm like, dude, if I was able to play that game with any kind of efficiency, forget about it. Forget about it. KOF 13 was that game. But I digress. Man, yeah, you're saying tell those GG heads to play 1 week of Mortal Kombat 1 and they will appreciate their games again. Facts! Facts! You don't even have to play the game. Experience how NRS treats the game and treats their community. And trust me, they will be running right back to ArcSys. It won't take much effort to find that out. Yo, what up, Cham? What up, Cham? He says, at this point, I'ma stick to Tekken and anime fighters. Don't blame you. Don't blame you. I absolutely do not blame you. I absolutely have no issues with that whatsoever. Big L from a consumer's point of view was FaZe JEV's latest MK1 video on YouTube. Oh, I've not seen that. Now, FaZe Jev is a Call of Duty streamer with close to 6 million subs who loves Mortal Kombat. In his last Mortal Kombat 1 video that came out after the Desync patch, he said, I quote, "I can't understand how you can release a patch that makes the matchmaking desync and you don't address it with a hot fix within hours. This will kill the game and it lost me as a consumer." Now imagine if every single major content creator came out and said the same French toast thing. Now you don't have to have a platform of 6 million people. I mean, on my YouTube channel, I've got less than 500 subscribers. I wish it was more, but at the same time, I'm very grateful for who I have above all else. You saw it in the last episode, and you heard my opinion. And if you've been with me for as long as the StarDock has been around over the years, I've also got other streamcasts up on the YouTube where you can hear my opinions, and you can hear some of my other sets where I've given my opinions. You're fully in sync with what I know and basically how I feel about the way that NRS has done their games. You don't have to have a ginormous platform in order to get the devs to see the message or send a message to the devs. If the entire NRS community banded together from a content standpoint and abandoned the whole, oh, we can't criticize the dev stigma. We can't say that about the game. We don't want to bully the devs garbage. If everybody got away from that nonsensical way of thinking and actually got them to realize that what they've done ain't it, that's the only way things will change. Like I said, I've damn near been shadow banned from just about every single major NRS space there is because people don't like the fact that I'm not afraid to not only speak my truth and speak it how I see it, but to defend my points while I'm at it with logic, facts, data, statistics, sources as best as I possibly can. People don't like that. People like being in their echo chambers, their safe spaces, all that bullshit. I ain't for that. If it's wrong, I'll tell you it's wrong. Or if it's effing wrong. If you don't like the tone, that's on you. Fact of the matter is, I'm simply telling you what you need to hear versus what you want to hear. Focus on the facts that come with the message. If every single content creator within the NRS space took that into account and actually brought this up to NRS and the WB for that matter, knowing full well that if they didn't, it would impact their pockets, which as we've already stated is the number one incentive for them to do what they're doing at this point, considering how badly they're mailing it in, change will be made. Simple enough. Tekken 4 the GOAT, but tournament-wise, boy, oh boy. Yep, you're not wrong, champ. You're not wrong, brother. Tekken 5.0 was also goated, but balancing was yikes. Yeah. Although that was the best version of Feng Wei that ever exists with that 7-frame back one. That 7-frame back one was cheese. But he's a consumer. This is entitled to an opinion. Honestly, he didn't say anything wrong. He said what we all think, but we all stick with it because we love Katana Scorpion. We can love our characters and all that, fine. I mean, hell, I make a post about Katana and her balance on Twitter, and the whole entire slew of competitive Mortal Kombat, Stan Mortal Kombat, and all that, they'll jump on me in seconds because they don't like the fact that I simply told my truth. And up to this point, as far as balance is concerned, if we're going to go there, yeah, aside from Foxy, getting 4th place over at that UFA tournament, which, and I don't mean to sound like I'm bagging on any part of the competitiveness on Europe as things stand right now, but you had 2 guys from the Middle East in the grand finals over there in Europe. That should tell you everything you need to know about the strength of Europe right now. And then, as far and that's the strength of a pro comp level competition that you can expect solo Katana. And that wasn't even solo Katana. That was Foxy switching up from another character going in one of his matches. Yeah, whether he won or lost matches, fact of the matter is he switched up. He knew full well he couldn't do the whole thing with Katana at that time, and yet still goes ahead on and tries to sit there and claim he got 4th place with solo Katana. He had a great run, did his thing, great player. But he knew full well he couldn't have us just solo Katana on all that. I harped on for months leading up to that you ain't getting no job done with no solo Katana in a stacked tournament where it counts. And well, yeah, you're as far as trying to say you got a good result over in a tournament like that, where you still lost out to the folks that were actually up there in the great scheme of things. That's like Florida in college football dropping down to Conference USA along with Florida State. They got 2nd or 3rd place with Florida State taking the Conference USA title, and they still think they're somewhat relevant with how they did it, with how their roster was built or whatever the case may have been. Fact of the matter is, full well that job is nothing worth talking about. You was in a lesser conference with lesser competition. Oh, that was the only reason you was able to get the result, even though you're a storied program. Same thing over there. But I point that out because aside from, whatever, I've done online and all that good stuff, and a couple other people have done, I mean, I look at all the major results of NRS balance, right? Or not NRS balance, but of NRS competitions right now on and offline. Katana's not there. ECT, Katana's not even in top 32. Blink Respawn, Katana's not in top 8. In major tournaments all the way around the online community, I'm not seeing Katana anywhere. Anywhere! Yet people will jump on me because I say she's not all that good and because the chickens come home to roost. Hell, recently, over in the Prince Panther tournament, dude had to go to Kenshi. Fozzy had to go to Kenshi. Because it was once again exposed that Katana's nowhere near as good as a lot of people like to think she is. Exposed! And that's a great player. I have nothing against the guy. I've got eternal respect for the guy for what he's accomplished. But you gotta face facts. I keep telling people to face facts when it comes to looking at the reality of shit. And people are so stuck in their feelings and their fantasies that they don't want to see the whole picture. They want to see what they want to see because it goes along with their argument. I see the whole picture. Yes, there have been a couple of events where Katana's gotten fortunate enough to place where she's placed, but in the great scheme of things, I know the full ins and outs about that character, and in a tournament where the competition is actually adequate, she ain't winning shit. I know this. And the same thing can be said about several other characters throughout the course of Mortal Kombat 1 right now, where you can obviously take a look at them and their best pairings right now, and you can obviously tell there's a gap balance-wise when it comes to how these characters can be characterized with a glass ceiling. You point any of this out within those respective communities, and they're gonna jump you like nobody's business, telling you, oh, you're downplaying, you haven't labbed enough, you haven't played such and such combination with a cameo, you haven't done this, you haven't done that. When, like, who are you to tell me what I haven't done? Like, what? Unless you spar with me on the regular, how are you gonna tell me what I haven't done? Not that it matters, I mean, but then again, imagine spending all that effort to try and get good in a game that ain't even gonna pay for your in-flight Wi-Fi if you place in the top 8 of the motherfucker. It's painfully obvious Mortal Kombat ain't paying right now. I said that in the last episode, it's reiterated now. Like, seriously. Competing in the pro competition, if that's what you want to laughably continue calling it, what's the whole point? What's the point? Even if you place in the sucker, you ain't making no money off of that junk. And that's another thing a lot of folks are having to come to grips with in the NRS community. It's not profitable, even as a content creator, to continue to shill for the game because it's painfully obvious just how pathetic of a product it really is. But back to the comments real quick. Yeah, from NRS, that NRS is using more money to make an inferior product. That's a big problem. I could not agree more. I love MK, but I think I let MK1 collect dust at this point. Exactly what I'm doing. How can we have a competitive community when the netcode is shit? Well, that's the neat part. You don't. I mean, that's the whole point of it all. You ain't gonna have shit. You're not gonna have shit. That's just what it is. You know, the competitive community is taking, I mean, the NRS community, or the NRS in general, has taken the biggest you-know-what on the community, competitive, casual, whatever. I mean, I've never seen a dev just shit on people. I'm just going to say it. Just absolutely shit on people the way NRS has. They say SF5 at launch was better than MK1, and that's saying something considering how bad that launch was. The difference is Capcom continued at it. Capcom was, of course, they've been using Sony's money for the longest time because there was a point in time where Capcom was desperately trying to avoid shutting its doors for good when they were really trying to get away from the thought of bankruptcy. Sony came in and saved them, and that's the only reason why Street Fighter V got developed in the first place. And as such, they knew they couldn't let them down, so they continued with what they had, and they continued developing and developing and developing and developing and developing. And then Street Fighter V wound up becoming eventually a game that was somewhat seen in a respectable light. But in spite of that, Street Fighter 6, I'm just going to let the Street Fighter 6 guys tell you what they think about that game, because at this point, I'm done trying to read that community. Boy, DJ said about MK1, $100 for a whole lot of nothing. I could not agree more. Yeah, I could not agree more. MKX, give us MK Deadly Alliance or Deception with some balancing and rollback and we'll be fine. At this point, don't let them touch gameplay. Let them make MK Shaolin Monks as a remaster and let them get away from needing to be put in a position where actual competitive gameplay is the focal point or even casual gameplay is the focal point. Let us just play Shaolin Monks and enjoy that, and they can enjoy some time away from the fact that they've been fairly incompetent with trying to develop anything with regards to the competitive community. Other content creators from games such as Call of Duty, FIFA, NBA 2K are trash talking the vebs and games until shit gets fixed. Dude, NRS content creators don't have the balls to band together and actually do the same. That's been a fact of life for years. Like I said, I am in a certain place as far as content creation is concerned, as far as my stuff being shadow banned is concerned. I'm in a special place where I can say whatever in the French toast I want about the devs at this point. And Like I said, I don't do it to make those guys sound like they're absolute scum of the earth or nothing. I do it because I want to see them do better. The game that they claim to be representatives of, developers of, deserves better. And they're not giving us that level of development, of care, community engagement, all of the above. They're not giving us that. You pay $112 for a game, for the premium edition of that game, you expect that game to be squared away Tiffany cufflinks as far as quality is concerned. Every ounce of that is what MK1 is not. Start charges on a villain arc. Hey man, that's the way that NRS and all of them have seen it. Like I told you, man, you know, I've you know, all the NRS community that shills Mortal Kombat. Here's the sad part. In the past, those guys were always the ones to try and tell me, oh, you're being harsh. You're being too hardcore on them. And, you know, you can't be criticizing the devs. You don't try to bully the devs. Now those same exact people are seeing exactly what I've been talking about for years. All the points I've been making for years are finally starting to be observed by the biggest supporters, blind supporters that NRS has always had. It's gotten to a point to where it's undeniable on all corners. In all realms of competitive Mortal Kombat, nobody can deny a single thing about it now. To release a patch that was supposed to cure a desyncing issue that has been persisting virtually since the game's release, because this game's online net play, as far as online stability, has always been in question ever since the game's stress test era in the summer of this past year. Ever since the stress test, they've been dealing with desync problems, and I gotta tell you, the fact that they were supposed to have a whole entire patch to fix that yesterday completely fall flat on its face, everybody's starting to finally have the wool taken up from over their eyes that they willingly put over their eyes themselves. Cognitive dissonance has been an issue within our community for as long as I can remember, because like I said earlier, people, especially content creators, the bigger content creators of NRS games, and even the competitive players that create their own content, they do everything in their power to try and avoid saying anything about the devs and holding them accountable for what lackluster quality they've put towards the product. And the people that have tested their games from either as part of the development team or that they brought in development that weren't working directly, you know, as employees of NRS, has been part of the QA, QC department full time. In the great scheme of things, those guys don't ever need to test a game again. They need not test games, because I've heard stories about how guys go into testing games, testing certain characters with agendas, and how certain characters get left in certain states, even though they know full well the problems with those characters are there, the developers, but they don't fix it. They don't wind up taking the onus upon themselves to doing extra quality control and assurance to try and X a lot of these issues out of the game before release. Hell, look at the way MKX was when it released. It had more problems than anything that they knew about, and they still shipped it. I mean, you can go back and listen to some old podcasts that were done all the way back in 2015, 2016, where folks were working within NRS and whatnot, actually tested the game, did QA, QC, and they'll tell you that they knew all about these issues from the ground up, and they still didn't fix them. Case in point, all the busted ass DLC that game had, none of those characters were tested, but they knew full well those issues around those characters were there. Tanya being chief among them. Go back and look at CEO 2015 and how Tanya was in the release of her DLC and as part of Season 1's DLC in MKX. Ed Boon butted some heads on the phone while that tournament was going, because he was there in the flesh at CEO. He was there in the flesh at CEO. Man was chewing some ass like bubble gum on the phone, all because people did not do their job in QA/QC in development of that character. That level of quality, that level of diligence in terms of their development has persisted all the way on to this point. It has a nerfed ice clone. It's smaller than the default clone. Nick Too Slick, man. I mean, even when it came to giving all kinds of credence to old school skins. I mean, for example, I still don't think that UMK3 skin for Scorpion was ever released on in MK11 like they showed. Because remember that Game Awards show that they debuted the gameplay trailer and everything for MK11 way back in 2018, at the end of 2018. I mean, they had young Scorpion coming out in the UMK3 garb. I don't think that skin was ever released in MK11. That was probably the greatest false advertisement I think I've ever seen as far as a game is concerned. And then you got the way that, as for Lee May, for example, Lee May, who's in her first Mortal Kombat game since 2006 when Armageddon was around. In her first Mortal Kombat game in 17 years, they give credence to her Deception skin, which I still think is her best old school skin. And she had some damn good old school skins with her Deadly Alliance skin and also her armor skin. Which was one of her secondaries over there in Deception and whatnot. But her Deception primary skin used in MK1, they completely and totally butchered that skin. These guys are so scared of showing skin on the females than they are of actually doing proper diligence in production of their games. Imagine if they took the amount of care in developing their game with good quality gameplay than they did with trying to censor all the skins on the females like what they've done ever since Mortal Kombat 9. If they applied that same kind of diligence to these games, we wouldn't even need to have this discussion. We'd be talking about everything else that's going on. The hype leading up to Combo Breaker, the hype leading up to the next events in the pro competition, assuming the pro competition was something that's even worth fighting for. No, we don't get that. We don't get that. Paulo's vision, ooh. And that's another one of the pieces of the puzzle, man. Like I said, I'd have to do my research to see if he's still with NRS. But if that's the case, well, then they need to do exactly what I said that they needed to do for years. And that's get his ass out of there. I mean, it's been well beyond time. And you want to know something? Like I said, I'm not going to go too far into that right now. That might come in on another episode. But as far as Mortal Kombat development is concerned, well, honestly, the best thing that could happen to Mortal Kombat is for a whole nother development team to take the reins, period. This game and franchise deserve so much more. It deserves more. It deserves more. At this point, the fact that Mortal Kombat has gotten to the point where you've got people posting Garrus mod, PC mods, doing back shots on Sindel and all that good stuff. That's all Mortal Kombat's been reduced to. The downfall of this once proud franchise is Yeah. It's one of the worst things I think I've ever seen in my lifetime, and to be honest with you, I would have much rather the game series had stopped at MKX as a hero than see it continuously evolve to be the villain it is now. The mess it is now. It's a shame, man. Yeah, you'll have to whisper it to me, Johnny, because it doesn't allow links in the chat. But yeah, you'll have to whisper it to me. But yeah, simply put, this game deserves better, and whether it deserves a better development team for everybody in that development team that can be completely and totally whitewashed out of there, and for a whole new set of eyes to be put on Mortal Kombat, that would be the greatest thing that could happen to Mortal Kombat ever. I mean, can you imagine the likes of a team like Namco Bandai, Iron Galaxy, hell, even for that matter, the Resident Evil people over at Capcom with the consultation of the rest of their fighting division, or ArcSys, or anybody else? If you imagine Mortal Kombat under that kind of leadership, that would be the greatest thing that could happen to this game in the sense of what this game deserves and what it needs. Because with the way things are right now, with NRS, Mortal Kombat's dead. This past update, with the way they mailed in that effort, I mean, whoa. You can't even get an effort that fixes your game's online net play correct after the net play was once the greatest strength of your entire team after you committed to GGPO. This is sad, bro. I mean, the community, this game is basically taking the community back to what things were during the Injustice 1 times. And that is a very, very, very unfortunate comparison for me to make to the Injustice 1 community from back in those years, because the community supported the game in spite of the fact that the game was indeed the very definition of kusoge. And yet the net play was terrible. The net play is terrible in Mortal Kombat 1, but thanks to the fact that NRS has basically showcased that they don't care, and the fact that they've showcased that, you know, it is what it is, and they're not exactly going to fix it because they've made their money, and